All right, it looks like we're live. Good time of the day, everyone. Thanks for joining our live stream today with Uzbek Diaspora interview series. Today we have Jahongir Rahmanov from Berlin, Germany. Thanks for joining. I'll just do a little quick introduction. Jahongir Rahmanov is a software engineer at Amazon Web Services. He currently lives in Germany, as I mentioned. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Information Systems from Westminster International University. He worked at a few local companies in Uzbekistan while studying at the university. Right after graduation, he started working at a US based company called Super Dispatch. I've definitely heard of it. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it, but I would love you to, talk about this later down the road. He wore many hats in this company, such as front-end developer, backend developer, DevOps engineer, Python chapter lead, and a team lead. A lot of terms out there, which I'm not too familiar with some of them. And after 3 years at SD uh, Super Dispatch, Jahongir moved to Berlin, Germany, to work for a multinational food delivery company called Delivery Hero. He worked there for almost 2 years, and then he switched to a small startup called Anaconda. Finally, since the beginning of 2023, he has been working at Amazon Web Services, where he, together with his team, is building a new service for the AWS cloud offering. Salam Jahangir, how's your day going?
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, thanks for the invite. Thanks for having me here. My day has been very good. Woke up, had a little bit of a coffee, and then
Awesome.
we.
What time is it now out there?
It's 5 p.m. It's 5 p.m. We just came back from a walk.
Hmm.
My
Awesome.
little son likes to walk outside with us, so we had a little bit of a walk.
Nice, nice. And let's just warm up the interview from the get go. I'd like to ask some fun questions. There are about 10 of them, and I'd like to answer. It doesn't have to be too long. Don't take it serious. Do you have any hobbies, and what are they?
Ooh, my hobbies. Well, currently I have very little time, so there's not much time for hobbies that I can do by myself. And everything that I do, I try to do at least with my family. So that means some movie watching, some outside, walking, or sometimes we run together with my wife. Well, I like to read as well. As I said, not much time for that, but when I commute in the underground or on a bus, I listen to audiobooks. Yeah, and I sometimes play a computer game called Dota.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's super popular. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to it.
right. Yeah. I
Interesting.
used to be a Counter-Strike player, but these days I play Dota.
Some of the, I think, mainstream games that a lot of people love playing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know if it's so popular, but interesting.
it is. It is. It's very
It
popular.
is. Okay. Uh-huh. What else? What kind of music are you into?
Ooh. Well, from the very morning till the evening until my work time ends, I listen to so-called focus music. Like it's the same beat repeating over and over again, and it helps me to focus on my work.
Hmm.
But I guess you're asking the
The
music in
genre.
terms of
Okay.
entertainment, like what kind of music I would listen to on a car.
Yeah.
um, well, I guess the category would be pop music,
Hmm.
and some rap music as well. I like to listen to Eminem from time to time. But I would say I don't have one specific category that I like most. I just listen to what sounds good uh,
Uh-huh.
these days. Like the latest song that I'm right now listening to is "Calm Down" It's by Selena Gomez and some rapper from Nigeria, I think. I don't. Rema. His
Yes,
name is Rema.
I
I remember
definitely,
now.
yeah, heard the song. Awesome. So it looks like you mix up a lot of genres here. You listen to like focus music and then rock and rap. That's interesting. I like
Yeah, it depends on the time of the day.
Yeah, it depends on the mood, huh? I
Yeah.
see. Who's one of your favorite celebrity role models, or any role model that you might have?
Ooh, celebrity. That's a tough one because I don't follow celebrities because what they do is a bit of cringy to me. Like Instagram posts, stories where they do advertisements of
Hmm.
products just to earn some money. Those kind of things that I don't like. That's why I don't follow many celebrities. Let me think. What do I like? What do I like?
Maybe any professional
Oh,
in your field
yeah.
you look up
Well, I'm gonna anger a lot of people here. I like Messi. Um, I
to?
like. I don't watch football a lot these days, but I like the guy because, well, first he's a great football player, and second, I like that he doesn't like diving when he's playing football.
Mm,
Uh, other players, you touch them once and they try to earn a penalty or a free kick and stuff like that. But Messi is not like that, and he looks like a good guy off the pitch as well. Yeah. So
interesting.
I have a
So,
lot of respect.
okay, not Cristiano Ronaldo, but Messi, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even in his personal life, I think he looks like he has figured things out, like with his wife and kids. So that earns my respect.
I see. I see. Awesome. Okay. What is your favorite place you've traveled to so far?
Ooh. I like my favorite city is called Heidelberg. It's in Germany. Um, because there is a very interesting old town in that city, and there is a huge river that goes right in between the city, and it's kind of divided into the left and the right side. One
Say the
side
name
is
one more
like
time again.
sorry,
What's the name of the city again?
Heidelberg. It's
Heidelberg. Hmm.
Heidelberg.
Heidelberg. Hmm.
Heidelberg.
And how far is it from Berlin?
It's 4 or 5 hours away on a train.
Hmm.
And on a plane, it's 1 hour away, I guess.
Gotcha.
No.
I'd like to encourage everyone who are watching us to drop their questions down below, and we'll be definitely pulling them up at some point, maybe not now, but later when the questions are relevant. Someone's asking what time it is. We just mentioned it's 5 p.m. in Berlin, 11 a.m. out here in Florida. And yeah, tell me what time it is in Uzbekistan. Um,
It must be 1 p.m., something like
yeah.
that.
Looks like there are some fans out here. Kiki Sila. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, Kiki is my cat. She's right there.
I
Yeah.
see. Not a cat.
Yeah. A lot of people seem to like her. She's very cute.
I see. How old is he?
Kiki is a she. So
Uh,
she is 1.5 years. Oh, yeah, 1.5 years.
okay. They want to see the Kiki. Okay. There you go. Inside.
Yeah, there you go.
Alrighty. And what is one ability that you believe everybody should possess?
I think it's communication. Like,
Communication skills, huh?
yeah, I mean, not only spoken communication, but also written one. Like ability to relate to others through the means of communication.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's what
Spoken.
I found. Yeah, both spoken and written, and sometimes with the help of science as well, I guess,
Hmm. Very interesting.
or emotions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you write, and how do you improve your communication skills?
Uh, just like everything else, you do a lot of it. For me, what I've found so far is quantity
Mhm.
is eventually equal to quality. and provided that you monitor what you've done, and you work on your mistakes, and then you try to improve. So whatever skill you want to improve, I think you just do a lot of it.
I see. Gotcha. Cool. And if you could go back in time and witness any historical event, which one would it be?
Tough questions. Makes you think. Historical event. Well, in Berlin, one of the most popular events is when the US president says, "Tear down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev." I don't know if people have heard about that. But basically, there was a wall back in the day after World War II in Berlin that divided Berlin into two, east and west. Eastern side was ruled by the USSR, and then the west was ruled by US, France, and England. And at some point, they wanted the Russian side to tear down the wall, and then the US president, I don't know which one though, comes down to Berlin and says, I'm a Berliner, and please, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. I think that's very epic. And if you come to Berlin during the winter time, right before Christmas, we have this lightnings festival. Basically, they project different kinds of shows with the help of lights onto very famous landmarks such as Brandenburg Gates, and then you can witness that event in the form of a lightning show. It's very cool.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, how would you call in a couple of words? What's the name of the event that you'd like to witness? It's the tearing down the Berlin Wall. Is it what it is?
I guess I'd like to witness the speech itself by the US president, and among lots of people, and then just applaud, I guess, together with everybody else.
I see. That's interesting. And what's something you've always wanted to do but haven't tried yet?
I'd like to build a business.
Build business?
And obviously it's a very risky thing to do.
Yes.
And as a provider of a family, it's hard for me to take a risk and risk our stability.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at some point when I'm stable enough for a while, like financially, and then I guess mentally as well, I'll definitely try to do that.
And what kind of business would you get into?
Definitely online, some kind of software as a service, or, well, the easiest for me would be education related, like teach IT, do online course. I've already done that and tried that, and that seems to work. So I think if I try hard enough, I would be able to make a real business out of it. I guess we'll see later on.
Yeah, I see so many questions popping up already. People are asking about your path to Amazon and your work-life balance and everything else. I'll definitely pull them up at some point. Please keep dropping the questions. The next question is, what does money mean to you?
Money means, first of all, money means mental freedom. Like, not only mental, but like freedom. Like in this world, unfortunately, you need money just so you can have.
Why is it unfortunate?
Unfortunate. I guess it doesn't really matter. It is what it is, right? That's the time we are born in, and that's the reality that we live in. Unfortunately, we need money to live a good life, to live a stress-free life. I guess when you're single, money is not that important, but when you start to have a family, when you have a kid, and then when you are the provider of the family, money is definitely not the most important thing, but it's something that helps you do the most important things.
Mhm.
It's not the end goal, but it's something that you use to achieve the end goal. So it means a lot of things. It means something that I use to have freedom to do whatever else I want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So money's path to freedom. It's a mental freedom, right? You're not stressing out a lot about it if you have it.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. And it's a resource to, accomplish your goals and do
Exactly.
whatever you want to do in life in general. Okay, that should be the last question. At what age do you want to retire?
It depends on what you mean by retire. Will I ever stop working? I guess no. Even if I will have at some point a financial independence, like I have so much money that I don't have to work anymore, I would definitely go crazy if I just stopped working and do nothing.
Hmm.
So I'll definitely would be doing something till the end of my life. So depends on what you mean by retire. But I would want to have a financial independence right tomorrow, but that's not realistic. It's
What
my
is
plan is. Sorry.
what is realistic? What's your realistic expectation of you getting retired?
40, at the age of 40, something like that.
40? Okay.
Between 35 and 40, if everything goes according to the plan. But
Okay.
you never know.
What's your plan? You want to invest in stock and get rich, or what's you want to build a company and you want to get rich, or what's the plan?
Yeah. Well, till 2023, my goal was to get into FANG, one of the FANG companies. My priority was Google, but
Hmm.
I passed almost all the interviews. But as soon as I passed pre-last one, they stopped hiring. You know what's happening all around the world.
Yes.
Companies are laying
Yes.
off everywhere. There's a hiring freeze.
Hmm.
They just stopped all the processes, like not only with me, but with other candidates as well.
Yeah.
And then they called me and said, "You are at the top of the priority list. As soon as there is some open position, we'll call you and we'll continue the process."
Hmm.
Uh, and then I got an offer from Amazon, and now I'm working for Amazon, obviously. But so my goal was get into FANG. Then the next step for me would be to get, well, my next goal is to get as much experience as possible
Hmm.
at the FANG company and try to learn highly scalable products that scale to millions or even billions of people. Uh,
Hmm.
and then the next step is to get into something that is called currently a scale up. It's something like
Hmm. I'm sorry. Trying to get rid of this. You got it. Sorry on my end.
no problem. It's something like a startup, but it's something that's growing really, really fast, both in terms of users and scale and in finances as well. And
Mm.
then try to get into such a company early on
Yeah.
and be something like a founding engineer
Yeah.
or one of the early engineers and bring that company um, to IPO or a
Hmm.
selling point.
Yeah.
And then found something on my own.
Hmm.
Theoretically, that's the plan.
Sounds like it's going to be a SaaS product, and it has to be scalable. And okay, that's awesome. That's a great plan. And I know the success rate of a lot of startups is pretty low, maybe like between 5 to 10%, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of risk. And yeah, awesome. We wish you good luck and love to stay in touch with you for your, on your future endeavors.
Thank
And
you.
let's get started with the actual interview questions. It's already been 20 minutes for fun questions. All right, now it's time to ask questions related to Jahongir's educational background, career background, and whatever questions that interest you. Uh, let's talk about your early life as a kid and a teenager. Who was Jahongir, and what was your interest at school and in life, generally speaking?
Well, I grew up in Namangan, although I was born in Andijan,
Hmm.
because my father used to work in the military. They move a lot
Yeah.
uh, between cities and vilayats and whatnot. We ended up in Namangan, and well, I have two brothers. All of us grew up in Namangan. Early on, Jahongir was somebody who studied English a lot. Like
studied English, but went to Germany, huh?
I didn't want to go to Germany. It just ended up here. I guess we'll talk about it later as well. But
sure.
Yeah. Well, you cannot come to Germany without English, so that worked out.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, after school, we go to academic lyceums and whatnot.
Right.
I just didn't study there. Like I wasn't physically there at all because I used to be a Olympiad participant, like in the city and then in the republic level when you participate in one of those Olympics, I guess you would say. You don't have to go to classes. So I would skip all the classes. I wouldn't study there at all. I would just go to a private language center called Lang Apex, and then spend from my morning till night even. I would just spend there. And after I graduated at language center, I ended up working there as well. If you study well enough, they offer you a job as a tutor. So I accepted their offer and started to teach youngsters basics of English. And after I got some experience, I started getting higher level students as well. And basically, I would just, from morning till evening, would be speaking and teaching English. That's who Jahongir was until he got into university in Tashkent.
Very interesting. So you worked as a teacher for how many years?
I think somewhere around 2 years. And the interesting thing is, my last group of students, I had a couple of my friends there as well. I would teach my own classmates and friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we all tried to get into Westminster International University in Tashkent. And my own student got into WIUT in the third place, and I got into WIUT on the fourth place. And the difference between me and him was 0.1 out of hundreds. That's how competitive it was, and very fun.
Yeah. As they say in Uzbek, if you're, what do you call it, apprentice or student doesn't overtake you, then
exactly
it's not success. So
that doesn't count.
Yeah, I see a lot of commonalities between you and me. I also used to work as a teacher at some point, maybe for a couple of years or 2 years, and I'm originally also from Andijan. Very interesting.
Which part?
I grew up in Microleon area, like Yangibazar.
The city. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? What part of Andijan were you from?
Shahrahan.
I see.
I have an aunt
from Shahrahan speak English so well, and they're very hardworking. I know that. I always respected that.
Yeah.
Awesome. What else? How did you like school growing up? I know that you've taken extracurricular class, like not extracurricular, but you took classes outside of your school and that were not traditional, right? You chose a different path. How did you like the school experience in general, and what did you learn?
Well, school time was the best time that I've had because, well, I started extracurricular stuff only in the 9th class. Before that, I used to go to gymnasium. I don't know the English term for it. Basically, like a better school, I guess.
Gymnasium.
Yeah.
And I'm again.
Sorry.
Which school is that?
It's in Namangan, so 58 school, a gymnasium. It was named after Alisher Nawai, and I met a lot of good friends there, and I'm still friends with them. That's why I say it's the best thing that I've happened to me. And we studied there. We were friends. We spent a lot of time together with them. And then when we were sixth class students or pupils, a math teacher of ours told us about this very nice ex-Turkish lyceum, where only boys would study. There is no girls, meaning there is no distraction. And you just study very hard, I guess, and then you succeed. And then all of us, like, I think there were like 12 or 13 pupils getting prepared together. We all got prepared for that, and then we applied to Turkish Lyceum, and all of them except me got in to Turkish Lyceum. Can you imagine? Like, I was one of the best. I don't want to boast.
How did you feel about it when that happened?
I cried. Yeah, all of them got in except me, although I was one of the best students. And then something very nice happened. They called us 2 weeks later. My mom picked up the phone, and then they said, hey, it was so competitive that we want to open. They used to get 2 groups of students, 30 each. And then they said, we want to open the 3rd one as well. And your boy got into the 3rd one. That's how I ended up in the 3rd class. Basically, there were A, B, and then C. I got into the C one. But 1 year later, they do an exam and of math, physics, and I think chemistry as well. And then if you pass, you go to A. And if you prefer history and that kind of stuff, non-science stuff, you go to B or C. And then I passed that test and then went to the A class. And then all those 13, 14 people got together again. And then we spent a lot of time there as well. We used to live in the Lyceum from Monday till Friday. And then you should come to the Lyceum on Sunday if you live there, just so you can start Monday very early on time. And then we would come on Sunday and we would all escape Lyceum just so we can spend the night playing computer games. That was a lot of fun. And then we got caught at some point. But
I see. Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm trying to pick up some questions. They're popping up. Shahrukh Rustam is asking this question the second time. He's super interested in knowing why we do this, these old contents in English, not in Uzbek. What do you think? Why do you think it's important to do it in English?
I mean, well, personally, I produce content in Uzbek. Like, I have Telegram channels and sometimes do YouTube videos, and I do my content in Uzbek language.
You do YouTube videos as well?
Sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes I do YouTube videos. I have a few. But,
how many pieces of content you have on YouTube?
I have 10 videos at most.
10 videos
but mostly as a guest, like this. So personally, I do my content in Uzbek. And obviously Uzbek Diaspora does its content in English, I guess, for people who prefer English. What I'm trying to say is there's enough content in both languages, and you like it, you listen to it. You don't like it, you don't listen to it. It's up to you. And I guess, Khasan, you can answer this question much better than me, why Uzbek Diaspora does its content in English.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having to answer this question pretty much every time we organize events like this. I don't know how many times I have to repeat, but as you mentioned, there's so much content out there on YouTube, on other platforms. People are, a lot of new starters who are, organizing events like this online, and most of their content is in Uzbek. And the reason why we want to do it in English is because there's none, first of all, and the second of all is it's called Uzbek Diaspora, and people who live abroad mostly communicate English. We're not encouraging anyone to speak English more than Uzbek, of course. Uzbek language is super important. We do believe that everybody should be able to speak Uzbek as long as they consider themselves as part of the community. But again, this way the platform itself started on LinkedIn, and most of the content in LinkedIn is English, and we want to be able to we want other people to be able to understand what's going on in the Uzbek community, in the Uzbek diaspora community, this content is not only meant to be watched by only Uzbek community, but everyone else around the world, right? Sometimes we get reached out to by many other uh, international companies that who are looking for any candidates that could be a good fit for the job that they're trying to fill in, or they want to cooperate with some Uzbek organization in Uzbekistan. So it's good. It's a good bridge between the Uzbek community abroad in Uzbekistan and the rest of the world. So that's the main goal that we're trying to achieve. So we want to be a bridge between the Uzbek community and the rest of the world, and that's why we bring people who are successful, who are educated, to talk about their experience, so that like Uzbek community gets educated, and they have. We want to encourage Uzbek people to speak more English, of course, because that's the world language now. And if you want to succeed, if you want to be successful, want to build a national company, you need to be able to communicate in English, and that's the future. That's the present already, I think. So hopefully we were able to answer the question, and let's move on. Uh, you say you didn't do any sports growing up, did you?
Well, we used to play a lot of football,
Mm.
not like in a professional way,
Yeah.
but as a group of friends, we used to play a lot of football. But I did used to do esports, if that counts professionally. We used to have a team back in Namangan,
Mm.
and then we got the first place in a few tournaments locally in Namangan in the city, and then we got invited to something called WCG tournament. It's World Cyber Games in Tashkent. But I was so small back then that my parents didn't let me go to Tashkent.
Uh-huh.
So that's how my esports career ended.
Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting. Awesome. All right. Let's start talking about your college years. So you went to Westminster University in Tashkent, right?
Yeah.
WIUT stands for Westminster University Tashkent, right? Yeah.
International University in Tashkent.
International University. Yeah, that's true. Let's talk about it. How was your college experience? Who was your favorite teacher, if you had any? And did you enjoy the college experience in general? You kind of elaborate on that more.
Well, Westminster is definitely not the best university you can go to,
Mhm.
but I'm very, very grateful to that place. I feel very lucky that I got into Westminster, because unless I went to Westminster University, I wouldn't be a software engineer.
Mm.
That's my opinion, because they have a very good thing. They don't make you choose a, what is it called? Yeah. They don't make you choose your major in the first year. You
Mm.
choose it in your second year.
Uh-huh.
So what happens in your first year is you study a little bit of economics, you study a little bit of business, and a
Uh-huh.
little bit of IT, a little bit
Uh-huh.
of law, and then you see which one you like most. And then in the second year, you go to that major. So what happened was, I have a lot of aunts and uncles that are really successful in the banking industry.
Uh-huh.
They work in banks, so I thought I would go work at a bank as well, as I don't know, an accountant or something like that. And then I was very sure that I would go into economics. So in my first year, I did some extracurricular activities around that as well. We would go to the financial institute in Tashkent and then attend those extra courses. And then I quickly found out that I really don't like that. I would quickly fall asleep, because they would usually happen during the evening after this WIUT studies. I
Yeah.
was very tired already, and I would fall asleep because I didn't like it at all. And
Mhm.
then regarding my favorite teacher, we had this really charismatic teacher named Vasily Kuznetsov, who motivated us to get into IT in our first year. He explained it in such a way that I fell in love with IT right away. And then me with a few friends of ours,
Mhm.
decided we would go into IT. And in our second year, we all went into business information systems, and we would, live together in an apartment, and then study together, get prepared together. And two of them are in Google now, one of them in Microsoft. I am in Amazon. Who else?
Wow.
Yeah, three of them are in Google. So we all ended up in good places, I think.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm very grateful that I went to WIUT.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll definitely touch on this career aspect of your, life down the road, but wanted to put more emphasis on the education as well. So you think choosing your major in your first year is not a good idea?
Definitely not, especially in Uzbekistan, where your parents pretty much want you to be either a doctor or a finance guy who works at a bank, or what else is popular, or a teacher. I don't know. Basically, they want you to get a diploma so that you can get married, right? Otherwise, it's just one of the requirements.
Yes.
So what happens is just people don't know if the major they are choosing is what they want to do down the road in their life. So they just choose blindly just because it's very popular, just because their parents want them to choose that major. Same happened to me, right? My parents wanted me to become like my aunts and uncles and go work in a bank. And I'm very glad that I didn't, and ended up as a software engineer.
Very interesting. So early on, you were already passionate about programming. Is that what you're saying? That's why you were able to, or did the college also shape your?
I had no idea about programming before
Oh,
WIUT. Yeah,
yeah.
that's why I say I'm very grateful for WIUT to show me that such a thing exists. And I'm very sure that a lot of people are in the same situation. They don't know what to do when they go into university. They just want to get a diploma. And I think every university need to show them all the options that they have.
Yeah.
And then choose the major, knowingly, not in a blindly.
And you've been in this programming world for how long?
Well, if you count the student years, I started IT in 2013.
Oh, wow.
We started like studying in 2013. We started with HTML, CSS, and all that basic stuff.
Yeah.
And then I started working after a year of studying. So it means 2014 in the summer, which means 8 years.
That's pretty long.
Yeah.
8 years is super long. Yeah. Okay. So you right after graduation, you started working at a U.S. based company called Super Dispatch, and you were there for 3 years, right? And could you tell us about what Super Dispatch is? And I'm sure a lot of people know, but for those who don't know, and how did you end up working there?
So I used to work for a company called Shift Technologies when I was studying at the university. Well, when you're a student in WIUT, you have this university-wide email system, and then whenever something happens, teachers can email all the students about some announcements and stuff like that. I think in 2015 or something like that, we got an email saying, "Hey." From that, our favorite teacher, Vasily Kuznetsov, saying, "Hey, a graduate of WIUT, who I know personally, has opened a company and is looking for a software engineer. If you are interested, please apply here, blah, blah, blah."
Yeah.
And then I was looking for a job at that point. And then I guess I just applied, and then I talked to the guy, and then everything went smoothly. And I started working at Shift Technologies. That's where I was taught the programming language that got me into a lot of the other companies later on, Python. Yeah.
So Python is the main language that we're saying. That's the most important language in the program.
For me, yeah, till
Yeah.
2023, Python has been my main programming language, and I was taught Python in Shift Technologies by one of the graduates of Westminster University. So we had a very good relationship with Begzotake. He was the founder of Shift Technologies, but the company was not very successful. We worked at a few products, but then it got closed down, and then Begzotake left for Dubai to work for an international company there. And then he came back after a year or so, I think, and then he joined Super Dispatch. I had no idea what Super Dispatch was, but then we decided to meet with him just to catch up. And he told me about Super Dispatch and said, "Hey, do you want to work for us?" I said, "Why not?" But then the problem was there was an opening for a backend developer, and I am a backend developer.
Oh.
There was an opening only for a front-end developer. I used to do a lot of front-end, but I just didn't like it. I wanted to become a fully back-end focused developer. But then I took a risk, and then I decided to join Super Dispatch as a front-end developer. But in the contract, I made them write, "Hey, in 3 months we would hire another front-end guy, and I would switch to the back-end side of things." That's what happened. I got in as a front-end, did a lot of front-end work, and then in 3 months we interviewed another guy and hired him, and then I switched to back-end. So yeah, that's how I ended up at Super Dispatch as a backend developer. And as you mentioned in the intro, I wore many hats during my 3 years there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Super Dispatch is basically, trucking industry is a really large business in US. You probably know a lot of people from Uzbekistan go into the trucking industry these days. And turns out they do a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
Noderbek, who is the founder of Super Dispatch, CEO and founder, who used to work at one of those things. We even have a picture of him holding this much paperwork just to do one order, right? And then, well, he used to work in this industry and saw that a lot of paperwork is involved, and even the payment was a problem. So the drivers drive very long hours from, let's say, New York till California. It takes a lot of hours. And what happens is when you do your work, you send a paper invoice to your whoever was your customer.
Yeah.
And then that paper reaches him, and then the paper reaches him in, I don't know, 2 weeks, and then he has another month to pay you. Imagine doing your work and getting paid in 2 months. That sucks, right?
Yeah.
So Noderbek decided to automate everything, and then he started building Super Dispatch, and eventually he found a partner in Tashkent, and then that partner, Farfatake, who is the CTO of Super Dispatch, built an entire team of developers in Tashkent. Currently, they have a lot of developers from other countries as well, because finding a good software engineer or any specialist is really, really hard in Tashkent. So they are hiring all over the world now, in Germany, in Brazil, in Ukraine, in Russia.
Yeah, we don't hear too much about this Super Dispatch when we talk about like big IT companies in Uzbekistan. So because like it's an automation of logistics operations, right? Pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. You keep going.
Yeah. Well, there are a few parties involved. Like there's a driver, there is a back office, and there's a customer, there's a shipper, and we built platforms for each party involved. We built an app, a mobile app for drivers. We built a web app for back office. We built another web app for shippers. And we combined all of them together, and we had this really nice platform that automated everything. Customers allowed us, and then afterwards, a lot of copycats started appearing in the industry. So that's one of the indicators that the company was pretty much successful.
Yeah.
And we raised quite a bit of money, and in a couple of years, we reached annual revenue of $1 million. That was very fun.
Wow.
Exciting. I think they do much more than that right now. I left I don't know, a few years ago. They are doing much better now as well.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt. Especially nowadays, the number of logistics companies is growing, especially in Uzbekistan, right?
Yeah.
And like whoever speaks English, either wants to do programming or want to get into logistics companies. That those are the two main things that a lot of young people are considering, like in terms of their career journey. But it's awesome. All right, there's so many questions that are popping up, but I want to, maybe we should just put a little emphasis on that as well.
Yeah.
Here you go. Bahraddin, I heard about you learning RUST at the moment.
Yeah,
I don't know what
Rust.
it stands for. Why Rust and why not another low-level languages?
Yeah, so I mentioned that Python was my primary language, and since the beginning of 2023, which happens to be my start at Amazon,
Yeah.
I am using Rust. The reason is pretty simple. It's just that Rust is used in my team. I cannot use another language while my all other teammates are using Rust. It's just it's stupid. So yeah, that's the only reason I'm using Rust right now. Otherwise, I would pretty much be using either Python or Golang if it was up to me. But I'm loving Rust. It's a very fun language, very powerful, very safe and fast. Yeah.
Right.
And at Amazon scale, your product that you're building has to be good enough to support millions of customers. Otherwise, it's just not going to work at Amazon scale. That's why Python wouldn't be the first choice for the customer-facing products at Amazon. That's why you have to use one of those low-level, fast languages, such as Rust, and they chose Rust.
I see your cat is enjoying the conversation over there, and I see that first someone's asking, "Show us the Kiki."
Kiki is sleeping.
It's good to enjoy your cat.
Kiki is sleeping here.
Sleeping. Oh wow.
Yeah, there you go. She's awake now.
There you go, guys.
Kiki, show us the face. There you go.
How much time do you spend with Kiki?
Not much, unfortunately. I spend a lot of time with my son now, but when I'm working, Kiki is usually right here. So not actively, but passively, I spend a few hours a day with Kiki like this.
I see. Are cats generally energy giver or an energy taker? What do you think?
Well, my cat is a very very passive cat. She likes sleeping, she likes eating, and then I just have to play with her like 20 minutes a day. That's all she requires.
Okay.
Some feeding, some
Yeah. And she minds her own business, huh? Well, that's good. It's good.
And she sleeps like this right in front of me. It's fun. And I guess it would categorize her as energy giver.
Yeah. That's good. All right. Shkrila is asking, Assalamu alaikum, should I make my master's degree at the US or in Germany? In US or Germany?
I don't like these kinds of questions where I get to decide somebody else's life. It's hard. It's just hard. It depends on so many other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like are you married? Do you have a kid? I don't know. Are you financially independent? Do you have money? Do you not have money?
Yeah,
stuff like that.
It's very subjective.
Yeah, depends on your own personal situation.
Yeah.
And if you are a software engineer, there are lots of good universities in the US, but there is also very nice ones in Germany or in Switzerland as well. They are not really expensive as in the US. And I think when I was in the US, I didn't have a family, and I have a family in Germany, and I find it really comfortable to live here as a family. So cannot compare that because I didn't have a family back then in the US. So lots of factors to consider. Just right advantages and disadvantages of each, and choose whichever works better for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we want to generalize it, what my answer would be is, in the US, you have more opportunities for growth.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
definitely a lot of opportunities in Germany as well. But most of the European countries, what they offer is the security. There's more security. There's more just social security. You know, it's a different political structure that they have. And the U.S. is different. There's more risk, but also there's more reward out here in the U.S. So it really depends. It depends on whether you want to stay after you graduate your school. So you got to balance. You got to balance your own options and talk to as many people as you can before you make a decision, I guess. Uh,
Yeah,
right.
you put it really well, I think. US is high reward, high risk,
Mm,
and Germany or Europe in general is pretty average in that regard. Like that's why I guess you see lots of rich and successful people in the US, and there's also lots of poor people in the US who
true.
are unfortunately homeless or ill or sick. And in the Germany, it's the opposite. There are lots of average people who are pretty
Mm.
much living their life, and you rarely see very rich people and you rarely see very poor people.
Yeah, it's a little bit more socialistic approach to,
Exactly.
you know, the government. But yeah, awesome. And let's switch the subject here. Mirzahid is asking, is it hard to build a work-life balance, and what are the key factors for it?
It's not hard for me because I have to um, keep that balance because, well, first I have a family. I have to spend time
Mm,
with my wife, with my kids. And also, unfortunately, I know what burnout feels like. When I was working at Super Dispatch, I
yeah.
didn't get almost any vacation days. I
Mm,
would just work and work and work. Even after work hours, after 6, I would just work because I wanted to grow as fast as possible. And
uh,
then at some point I burnt out,
uh,
which means you don't want to wake up in the morning, you don't want to work, you don't want to study, and
mhm.
then you just feel down all the time. And
Yeah.
then and it's just hard to cure that illness. It takes time. That's why I cannot afford to do that anymore. I cannot burn out. I have to keep a work-life balance. Otherwise, it's going to cost me more, cost me a lot of resources in terms of money and time.
Yeah.
So
What's your quick advice on work and life balance? If you could generalize it for everyone, what are some of the steps that one has to take? Maybe prioritizing their, their tasks in life, or what would be your one advice? Let's say.
my advice is keep distractions the amount of distractions as little as possible, as small as possible when you are working or studying. Like don't sit in Facebook or Twitter or Instagram when you're working. Just focus on the work.
Mm,
Finish that work at 6 or whatever time you work, and
mm,
then focus on entirely something else afterwards.
mm,
And another advice that I would give absolutely everyone is sports is not an optional thing, like a lot of people like to think. Like people, I think it looks to me that people think that sports is an optional thing. Well, I would absolutely disagree. Sports is a required thing, especially if you are a software engineer. People
yeah.
just don't know it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I learned that the hard way as well.
Yeah.
I hurt my back at some point, and it
Oh man.
takes a long time to
Yeah.
to fix that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so sports, focus when you are working, and then do entirely something else after work. Just
Mm,
don't focus on work after 6.
yeah.
That's what I would say.
Awesome. I personally can relate to it. That's awesome. And one of the things you have to do, as Jahongir said, keep distractions away. That means less social media, less low priority tasks, and have a set schedule. If you're focusing on one thing, focus on that thing at a time, and then switch your focus to something else once you're done with it completely. And then sport isn't an optional thing. I 100% agree. A lot of people treat it as an optional thing, and it's not a good idea, especially when you're young. You got to get started with this habit building, like take up on some hobbies, like whether it's a tennis, whether it's a ping pong, whether it's whatever kinds of sports you're interested, swimming, boxing, and soccer. You got to do some physical activity to, especially in the modern days, in the modern work environment where you're always sitting in front of a computer. I think it's super important. Thanks for emphasizing on this. A quick question from Yusuf Beck, which level you work in Amazon? That means what's your role and responsibilities at Amazon?
Internally, it's level 4, but that doesn't say anything to external people. It's something like a middle engineer. So what happened? Well, one thing that we need to make clear is if you are a senior engineer in one company, it doesn't mean that you will be a senior engineer in all other companies. It depends on what you do in each individual company. So in my career, I would always go to the senior level in one company. When I change jobs, I would be categorized as middle in the next one. The same happened in Amazon. I was a senior engineer in Super Dispatch. I ended up a middle engineer in Delivery Hero. I grew to a senior engineer in Delivery Hero, and I went back to a middle engineer in Anaconda. I didn't have enough time this time to grow into a senior one in Anaconda, and I'm still a middle engineer in Amazon. Yeah, that's my level.
All right, awesome. So you, after 3 years of working at what's the name?
Super Dispatch.
Super Dispatch, yes. You say you moved to Germany, right?
Yes.
How was this transition? Like, how did it happen? Like, how did you find a job? Like, if you could, I know you touched on it a little bit, but if you could provide more details on it, that'd be very interesting for people to know. Because it's a lot of people who get great jobs at Amazon or all these big corporations, such as like Apple and stuff like that. They usually graduated from like Western like universities in Western countries and stuff, not in the university in Uzbekistan, but you were able to land a job at one of the best companies in the world, which is Amazon. And how did it happen?
So that was not planned at all. I never planned to go to Germany. It just happened this way. So in my third year at Super Dispatch, this burnout thing happened that I mentioned earlier. Well, it just happened that somebody on LinkedIn contacted me, a recruiter. They said, hey, are you interested in this really large company? They do, I don't know, billion orders a day. They never tell you the name of the company on LinkedIn.
Wow.
If that person is external to the company, they never tell you the name of the company because they don't want you to apply to the company directly. They want you to apply through them so that they can get money if you get accepted. And then I said, no, I'm not interested. But then I read that message once again, and something caught my eye. That billion orders a day sounded like really a lot. And it would be interesting to work on a system that was able to handle that much
volume.
Volume. So I Googled quickly, and I just found it in 1 minute, the name of the company. There was just one company who did that much load, that much volume in Germany. So that was really easy to find. But then I talked to that recruiter once again and decided to apply. And lots of people in Europe offer you a relocation package, and Delivery Hero did the same, which means they give you some amount of money so that you can move to Germany or to any other company in Europe. It's hard for US because of the immigration system in the US, but it's much, much easier in Europe. So I applied. I failed miserably in my first attempt because the requirements that they wrote in the job description were completely different to what they were expecting from me. Like they were not professional enough to write a good job description for some reason. So I failed. And then after 1 month, that recruiter reached out again saying, hey, why don't you try once again? Because we have another job that's open. And this time definitely matches your skill set. That's what they said.
Mm-hmm.
And then I applied. Everything went very smoothly except the last step in the interview process,
Mm-hmm.
which was a stress test.
Mm-hmm.
Stress test means they deliberately put you in a stressful situation. They make you stressed, and then they ask you technical questions. And then they test if you are able to solve technical questions in a stressful situation.
Wow.
I failed that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't do good enough, and so I failed. And then after a month, they reached out again, and they said, "Hey, last time you applied for a senior position, that didn't work out. But why don't you apply for a middle position?" That's what they said.
Uh-huh.
And then I applied, and it was very easy this time. I did well on all steps till the end, and they sent me a job offer saying, "Hey, this is your relocation package. We'll give you this much amount of money." I guess that's public information. That was around 4,000 euros for you to move to Germany.
Uh-huh.
And then, yeah, the rest of the information, the contract, your salary, your sign-on bonus, and stuff like that. And that sounded good enough.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to work for an international company in a European country or US. So Germany is one of the biggest economies in the world. So I just said yes, and I applied for a visa. That took 9 months. Unfortunately, our embassy is very slow.
Wow.
That took 9 months. They almost rescinded my offer, but after I got my visa, I moved to Germany and started working at Delivery Hero.
Wow. That's amazing. Turns out, if you have good skills, if you have good experience at a good company, and if you stand out as a professional and you have a solid LinkedIn profile, you get reached out by recruiters. Just want to ask this question. The recruiter was a third party recruiter, right? They didn't represent the company directly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So to be able to appear on their searches, maybe your profile also played a role. Like, did you do anything to stand out? Maybe some tips or tricks.
Well, the trick is, I think, to use keywords nicely, because I think what happens is recruiters have a different UI. Like, they pay LinkedIn to have advanced search, for example, and then they enter their filters, and then they search for candidates. And then I guess one of the nice filters is the keywords that you use in your profile. And they were looking for a Python developer, and I had Python all over my profile. That's why they were able to find me. And then once they find you, they read what you have done in your previous companies. And what I do is use numbers a lot, because as a software engineer, you do lots of abstract things, and recruiters, I think they don't understand those abstract things. That's why it's really important to speak an easy language for them, if you know what I mean. Like, you don't say I worked with microservices with Python and Go. You say I've made this program twice faster. That's easy to understand. Microservices is not easy to understand for non-IT people.
True.
I use numbers a lot. Even right now, if you look at my profile, there are lots of numbers. Like, I've improved unit tests. I've increased the amount of unit tests by, 40%. I've made them faster by 50%. I've worked at 2 products that we launched and stuff like that. So basically, I use a language that's easy to understand and also sound impressive.
What do you mean by sound impressive? Like, you use some buzzwords?
No, I mean the same thing, like the numbers. I made this system twice faster.
Oh, I see. That makes sense. Is it good to exaggerate on your profile? Sometimes, like, add something to it, or like the experiences that you have done, but like not in that scale or something. What I mean?
Yeah.
or is it
Well,
not recommended to exaggerate on that because you'd be exposed during the interviews or something? What do you
if you're if you're applying for a good company, you'll definitely be exposed. It's hard to lie.
Hmm,
Uh,
I bet
well, it's easy to lie, but then it's hard to back your arguments up in the interviews
because they'll
because
probably ask the questions, right?
yeah, what we do is not easy.
Yeah,
One deep question and you are done in the
sure,
interview. It's really easy
sure. I
to
see, I see.
notice.
Especially like as a software developer, you're dealing with like specific stuff, right? You have to know all the skills, you have to know the language and everything. It's not a business developer job, or it's not a sales job, or it's not like different like management jobs that, you could put a little more exaggeration on your profile if you're in one of those roles. But when it comes to programming, when it comes to like accounting and professions like this, you can't like really exaggerate. Okay, awesome. And so some of the takeaways from you when it comes to LinkedIn profile: keywords, don't use buzzwords, like try to be specific and use as numbers as much as you can, I guess, right? and
Yeah.
and make sure you describe the responsibilities and roles you have in a specific way so that it appears on the searches of recruiters. Awesome. A lot of advice out here. All right, what else? Let's also talk about your last. I don't think it's a last role, but like, what is the name? Anaconda, the company that you worked at. We don't have a lot of information on this. I would love you to touch on this as well.
There's not a lot of information because it's hard to explain to non-IT people because we used to develop software for software developers and just non-software developers don't care about those things.
Yeah.
So Anaconda develops um, tools and instruments for data scientists and machine learning engineers mostly. Like
Mm.
we build third-party packages, we verify them, and we basically protect your open source pipeline. What
Mm-hmm.
this means is when you are developing software, you use a lot of free open source software that's already written for you.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they are not safe enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they are not verified. And Anaconda, what it does
Yeah.
is it verifies all those packages and it gives you safe versions of those packages through
Mm-hmm.
its tools. And
Yeah.
then you as a software developer company or a team, you can use Anaconda tools to safely install and manage all those third-party
Yeah.
products or instruments or packages.
Mm-hmm.
And then if something happens down the line, if some security issue happens to those packages, you will immediately be notified through the Anaconda tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. In short, that's that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. Okay, we already reached an hour and 7 minutes mark. We try to shorten our answers if we could, and I try to pick up some of the questions on the comment section. Please feel free. We still have some time, and we'll definitely bring up all the questions that has been posed. And the next section of our interview is asking questions. I call them 3 questions. Uh, what are 3 books that had a big impact on you, or 3 books that you'd like to recommend other people read to have to achieve in anything in life? Right, it could be any book that you like.
So Atomic Habits is
Atomic.
my number one.
Yeah.
Also a habit book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think that's what it's called. And I don't like to read self-help books anymore. But back in the day when I used to read them, one of the best books that I read was 10x.
10x Rule.
10x Rule, yeah. It's Greg Cardone or something like that. The author.
Yeah, Greg Cardone is a what do you call it? Real estate guru.
Yeah. Ignoring some cringy comments, his book is really good and helped me
Did you read it or did
Uh,
you listen to it?
I listened to it. I used to
That's
commute
why
a
you like
lot,
it. That's why you like
and
it. If you
yeah,
read
that's why I
it,
like it exactly.
it sounds dull. Most people get motivated by Grant Cardone by the way he presents himself, more than like
Yeah,
his message itself. But yeah, awesome. So, Atomic Habits, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and 10x Rule. You can
yeah.
add extra books that you know if you have anything in mind.
Right now, like what I found is what's good for me
Yeah,
may not be good for others.
yeah,
Like right now, I read whatever is good for my situation. So I'm
yeah.
reading
Mm,
I'm reading fatherhood books, which the people wouldn't read unless they are fathers.
yeah,
Like I'm reading a book called "The Book You Wish Your Parents Had Read" or something like that.
mm.
It's a really good book, but people wouldn't read it. So
I,
I yeah, I'm not sure if I can recommend. Well, I can recommend a lot of software books, but
mm, I see. Yeah, you can send a list of the software books that you recommend, and we can leave it in the comment section on our social medias. But okay, awesome. I see there's some pattern here in the kinds of books you read: Atomic Habits, Habits, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, 10x Rule. They're all about habits. So I want to ask you, like, what are 3 habits or more habits that you have that help you to be successful in your career?
the first one is so, this is really obvious because people have heard about this one all the time. Surround yourself with good people.
Mm,
That's the most influential thing that I do, I guess. Like since my childhood, if I think back, whatever I've achieved is because I've achieved them with the help of my friends, with the help of
mm,
my close family and things like that. And
yeah.
because they were trying hard, I tried hard with them.
Mm,
Uh, Getting accepted to Turkish Lyceum, getting accepted to
mm.
WIUT, and getting accepted to Amazon is just because my friends tried hard to do the same.
I
And they did the same things before me, and I just followed their path.
Mhm.
Right? I told
Yeah,
you about 3
as they
friends that
say,
got into Google. Right? They did it before me.
yeah. As they say, you're an average of like 5 people you communicate with more often than other people. So yeah,
Exactly.
awesome.
Yeah.
What else?
Uh, Second thing is don't believe in external motivation. Like, and that's what I got from Atomic Habits. I think build systems. Right. Motivation is ephemeral. Like it sometimes exists, it sometimes doesn't. Unless you build systems, um, your motivation will crumble at some point, and it just goes back. You just have to go back to the boarding game, level 1.
I see.
What this means is, um, what example can I give? One system that I have is my kid, right? And one thing that I enforce is doing entirely something else after my work hours. So
Yeah,
my kid forces me to do that after my work. That's one example for a system. Uh, that's not applicable for many people, but still. Yeah.
I see.
So don't rely on your inner strength. You rely on real systems that will force you to do good habits.
Mm, I see. I see. Okay, so that's the second piece of advice, right? Surround yourself by good people, and then don't believe in motivational,
Yeah.
stuff that they're putting out there on YouTube and stuff like that, right? And build
Yeah.
systems instead. And anything else?
Yeah. Delete social media.
Delete social media. That's a subjective piece of advice, but yeah, unless
Yeah.
you're
Exactly.
unless you're getting any value, true value out of it, then yeah, delete social
Yeah.
media.
I get value out of it in Telegram and stuff like that, and some people get value out of Instagram. So
Yeah,
if you're just doom scrolling, watching videos and pictures, just delete it. They mess up with your brain.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
scientifically proven.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Does your cat play any role in your success?
uh, well, I guess a little bit because she is a source of good mood, and she's an energy giver.
Mhm.
Yeah, I smile a lot when I see her, so I would say yes, a little bit.
I see. I see. Okay. Alrighty. That this part, what we're gonna do is we want you to answer these questions very shortly as possible. Those are very general topics, and I want to know your thoughts on that. If you don't have any thoughts, then just say I don't. You don't want to comment on it, but let's go. Your quick thoughts on the following topics: the future of data privacy and surveillance.
Data privacy and surveillance. Well, it's going to be enforced by the governments a lot. It's just because of AI and stuff like that, it will have to be regulated. And then because of that, people want systems, blockchain systems like Bitcoin to, feel free from the governments and stuff like that. So both sides will fight, I guess.
Okay. And the next general topic is net neutrality and the regulation of the internet. What are your thoughts on it?
Isn't it the same thing?
It's similar, yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to like creating content, being able to have access to all social media, and there's a thing called cancel. What do you call it? Cancel culture? That's a new term that they're coming up with. A lot of popular people are getting canceled because of the comments they made. And, for example, one of them is the former president of the United States. He got banned from Twitter and some other social media platforms. What are your thoughts on that? What do you take?
That's a very controversial topic. I think it's not good that people are getting canceled. I am a believer in free speech, but what the former president did and what some other people do is too much. And I feel like sometimes they deserve to be regulated.
Yeah.
But it's a thin line between what needs to be regulated and what doesn't need to be regulated, and it's hard to think about it. So I guess my point is, most of the time it should be free. People should be free.
Yeah.
But extremes that lead other people to do bad things need to be regulated, especially if it's related to children that can't think independently.
So extreme should not be tolerated. It should be regulated to an extent, and it's a super controversial subject to discuss. Right? Yeah, I understand. The ethics of autonomous systems, including drones and self-driving cars. Driverless cars should be safe enough before they're popular, right? What are your thoughts on that? Autonomous systems.
I feel like they need to be, well, they are the future, I think. But what should happen is they shouldn't be mixed with non-autonomous stuff. Like you have a city, like you need to have a test city or test region where all the cars are autonomous. Like there are non-autonomous cars out there. The whole city is just driven. You drive a Tesla or other self-driving cars, so that the system doesn't fail because of something unexpected that a person would do, and then expand that region little by little till everything is a self-driving car or a autonomous.
And you believe that everything's going to be driverless cars? Nobody's going to be able to drive on a highway or on a so that's the future, you think? You believe?
Well, to some extent, if it's not mixed, but well, that begs the question of if AI will take over some jobs and stuff like that. That I don't believe in. AI will not 100% take over.
Yeah, we have
like
a
job of
that
software developer.
I see. Okay, so they should not be mixed with non-autonomous cars, and people should have a right to be able to enjoy driving, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they should be voted. And you can't force people to live in the city full of autonomous cars unless they want to.
I see. Yeah, living in Miami, I see some of the autonomous delivery vehicles. They're super small like this, and I see them on a daily basis, and the numbers growing every day, I guess. And it's crazy how fast it's growing. But yeah, I agree. I agree. It has to be regulated, and the next following question is ethics of autonomous. Wait, I already asked it. Autonomous system, including drones and self-driving cars. We already touched on that. The role of social media in spreading misinformation and its impact on elections and democracy.
That their role is big, I think, because most people are in social media these days, and it's easy to affect them through those means. So we need to be careful there as well. That's why I say delete social media unless you get value out of it. You never know.
I see. Okay, awesome. And the digital divide and access to technology. What's your thoughts on that?
What exactly is the question?
Digital divide and access to technology. Your thoughts on the digital divide, meaning like people who are on a higher, income, what do you call it, bracket. They have more access to technology, right? They have more resources to use technology, and it creates this divide between the poor and the rich, right? And what do you think the government should do to make sure there's no divide and everybody's having equal access to technology in general, to internet and hardware and software and everything?
Well, what I'm observing is internet is accessible to many people these days.
Yeah.
So I think those things are getting cheaper and cheaper, and will be more accessible as the time goes. If there is a specific technology that's accessible to only rich people, I guess a library kind of a thing would work, where you have this public place where people could come and spend their time with that kind of technology and then leave at the end of the day.
Okay, so you believe the internet is sufficiently accessible for everyone, literally everyone?
Yeah, I believe so. Because I'm from a remote parts of Uzbekistan, and everybody I know there has access to internet.
Okay, I see. Let me see if there's any other interesting subjects to discuss. The ethics of using facial recognition technology in law enforcement and surveillance. What are your thoughts on that?
That I don't like, because it's a black box for us. I want the government to use those technologies, but also make the information public somehow, and then so that I, as a person, can know what's going on in those systems, what they are tracking, what they're not tracking, and what technology they are using. It's a really hard thing to do, but I want us to develop more, to get civilized more, but I also want those things to be an open source of information, because otherwise it gets scary and scary as the time goes.
True. It's kind of dark to think about it, to be honest. So you want to bring more transparency so that everybody knows what's going on, everybody's on track. I see.
Yeah, okay. That's why I guess technologies such as blockchain is getting more and more popular.
Yeah. The following and last subject might be interesting to you. Let's see. Bias in algorithms and machine learning models. What are your thoughts on that?
That's funny, right? If you've seen the results from Microsoft Bing lately, those things are real. Even ChatGPT is spitting out some funny stuff. Well, that's how they work. The way they work is you feed them lots of data, and then they will digest that data and give you some result based on that data. So whatever data you give those technologies, depending on how biased that data is, the technology will be biased in the same way. So, and it's really hard to gather data that involves everybody in the whole world. So those technologies will be biased in one way or another for someone in the world. Might not be the majority at some point, but for someone it will be biased.
Are you optimistic or pessimistic when it comes to the future of technology? The rate that it's growing, the chat GPT that's like, that almost seems like a human being, is doing a way better job when it comes to like, writing essays, writing articles and stuff like that. So are you optimistic or pessimistic? What's going to happen with all these trends that are coming up?
Yeah, I like those technologies a lot. They are a great help for me personally. They are really helpful for someone who's learning a new language. Right?
Yeah.
I'm learning Rust at this point, and it's really helpful. It's like having a mentor right beside you who doesn't care about your question, just answers. But I would lie if I said I'm not scary. I'm a bit scary because it's just developing too fast, and I don't know how it works. Like as I said, it's not open to majority of people. A lot of people don't know how it works. That's why when you are uncertain about something, you naturally get scared.
True. It causes some stress. I understand. And are you also concerned about the job security? Because you're a programmer, and I know there's a trend called no-code programming that's new, and people are already discussing this. And what's going to happen?
What's going to happen is senior level engineers will continue working just like before. Even middle ones will have no problem finding a job.
Well, you're saying you're safe and everybody else is not safe.
I'm saying finding an entry level job will get more and more difficult, I think. And what will that result in is education centers will have to make their resources and whatever they teach a much more quality, increase their quality level and teach some hard stuff.
Yeah. Okay, I see. Perfect. Thank you. And let's try to pull up some of the last questions that we have here on the chat. Where were we at? All right. If you could answer shortly, what are the challenges you faced living in Europe with your family? Thanks.
Yeah, language. We don't speak German. And sometimes you have to speak with people who work in a government organization, and you want to get your documents done, and then they don't speak English, so you have to bring someone who speaks the language, or they will feel angry and stuff like that. So that's that. Second is finding an apartment is really hard. So what this means essentially is your first 6 months in Europe will be a bit stressful. So if you are coming to Europe, just be mentally ready to be in situations when your documents are not ready, when you don't speak the language, and you have to speak to someone who doesn't speak English. Just be ready, be mentally ready.
Unless you speak the language fluently, right? So are you taking a class in German?
No, to be honest, no, because Berlin is a very international city. The youth, pretty much all of them speak English, so there's no problem there. It's just the middle-aged people who have a lot of problems in their life, like family and stuff like that. They have no time to learn English, so they only speak German. But in Berlin, you are comfortable living here if you speak English, Russian, and Turkish. And I happen to speak English and Russian. My wife happens to speak Turkish. So we have this good combination, and we are able to survive here.
Oh, that's awesome. That's some synergy there. I heard that like 7 million Turk nationalities live in Germany. I heard that's a big chunk of the population. Awesome. Great. So some of the challenges that Jahongir faced is the language and also finding an apartment. So if you speak the language well, and if that makes your job very easy.
Yeah, and then taxes are high as well. So coming from Uzbekistan, you will feel quite shocked when you get your first salary. Be prepared for that as well. Half of it is gone, pretty much.
Yeah. Sure. And awesome. Iqbala is asking, what would you suggest to learners who want to start learning programming, where they should start? If you could like give a general answer that applies to pretty much everyone, that'd be great. Doesn't have to be too specific. Yeah.
Yeah, depends on your background, I think. If you are good with maths and physics and abstract thinking in general,
Yeah.
you can start directly with some programming language. But if
Yeah.
your abstract thinking is not, one second.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, Shafmas. Sorry. So what was I saying? Yeah, if your abstract thinking is good enough, you start with a direct programming language, which I think should be either Java or Python.
Mm.
Or if your abstract thinking is not good enough, you can
Mm.
start with something called Scratch, which will help you develop your thinking and logic
Mm.
that you can use later on to learn a language.
Yeah, yeah. We already hit the 1 hour 30 minute mark. I just want to summarize. I'm sorry if we were not able to address some of the questions. We appreciate you watching, and some of the takeaways that I want to reiterate one more time. Jahongir loves running, walking, audiobooks. I love the audiobooks part. Audiobooks are super easy to do on a daily basis. Whenever you're doing something, like when you're jogging or working out or something, always listen to audiobooks and educate yourself. And then, you know, communication skills is super important, even uh, in the world of programming. Not only spoken but also written communication skills are super important. And I know you you write articles and stuff, right? You have your own Telegram channel that you have, and we already shared it on social media, so you can follow him and maybe be in touch with him if you have any questions. Hopefully, Jahongir will be open to connecting with you and guiding you. And then when it comes to work-life balance, keep distractions away. The less social media consumption, the better. Unless you're a content creator and getting actual value out of it, and have a set of schedule. Focus on one thing at a time. When you're doing work, do the work. When you're with your family, spending time, make sure you spend quality time without being distracted. And I love the advice. And sport isn't an option. Make sure you have a routine. You always work out. You do cardio and stretching. Make sure your blood circulation is in a good position, and you're feeling good. You're breathing well. Some of the LinkedIn piece of advice: uh, use keywords, and use actual numbers to illustrate, your responsibilities and roles and whatever you do in your career. And 3 books that you recommend: Atomic Habits, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and 10x Rule. I love all the books. I've read all of them, and I also recommend you guys definitely, especially for starters, for young or teenagers trying to get into college. Try those books, and they're going to help you a lot. Building good habits is the path to success. Surround yourself with good people. Don't believe in external motivations that you hear on social media. They're very momentary. They just come and go. What needs to happen is you start building systems that will last long, and they'll help you build your foundation, and they'll lead you success, basically. And then delete social media. Super subjective, unless you're like getting out value out of it. Please go ahead and delete if you want. All right, awesome. Thank you for an amazing conversation. Sorry it took us hour and 30 minutes. We do appreciate this extra mile that you took with us, and let's stay in touch. And I'd love to invite you to other virtual and actual interviews, events that we're going to be organizing down the road. And that was a big help for our audience, and hope they get really good value out of it. And yeah, any final thoughts that you want to share?
Yeah, thanks for the invite. It was a lot of fun talking to you and answering
Yeah,
those questions.
yeah,
And we'll be
likewise.
happy to catch up,
Yeah, I
of
see
course.
the Kiki woke up.
Kiki woke up right at the end. She
Right.
knows.
Yeah.
She knows.
All right. Awesome. All right. Have a great rest of your weekend, everyone. Thank you.